If you're looking to start catching more inshore fish in the summertime and you want to narrow down your lure selection so you can spend more time fishing and less time swapping out lures, this video is for you. So what I've done is I've broken down basically the essential lures and hooks that I would be using in the summertime. Let's go through each lure here and how it's rigged up and when and why I would use one over the other. So in the summertime, we have really warm weather. And first thing in the morning is going to be basically that prime window to start catching fish. And when you have low light conditions, you're fishing around schools of bait fish, I would go with a topwater, such as our Moonwalker. This comes in a variety of colors, but this is a walk the dog style lure. Works great in the morning time in anywhere from, I would say, 5 feet of water or less. These can still work in deep water as long as the water is pretty clean and there's low light conditions. But the key is finding the bait fish, finding the structure, and casting a topwater around that. And this also acts as a great search bait. You know, you can cast these things really far. You can cover a lot of water and bring them in fairly quickly. So topwater first thing in the morning, and if you notice that fish are striking the topwater or they're following it but just not connecting, then I'll switch over to something subsurface up in the shallows. So as you can see here, we have our 4-inch mulligan. This is the Slam Shady color. And these, again, great search baits. You can cast paddle tails very far. You can retrieve them however you'd like. Straight, steady retrieve, especially if you're new to inshore fishing. Paddle tails are great because all you have to do really is cast them out and reel them in. So the paddle tail would be my next option if, you know, topwater's just not working, or you could just start out with a paddle tail and skip the topwater, depending on the activity of the fish. And then the next type of lure, we'll go over the lures and then how I have them rigged up, would be a shrimp imitation. And this one in particular, is our Prawn USA Junior. This is a smaller version of our natural or original prawn. This is the natural color, but you can see this one's a little bit bigger. This one's a little bit smaller. So if you have pretty calm days, you know, the water's not moving too much, it's not really windy, it's glass out there, something that's a little bit more finesse can get the job done. So a shrimp imitation can be great. The smaller, the better, the cleaner and calmer it is. If it's a little bit windier, you need something a little bigger to throw, or maybe you're fishing a little bit deeper, this bigger version or the original version would be ideal. Now, as far as these are rigged up, I have two different hook options here. So we have our Haas Helix hook. This is a 3/0 1/8 ounce. This is a weedless hook, and this is also a weedless hook, but it's more of a jig head. This is our Haas weedless round eye jig head, and as you can see, it has that jig head on there. Then it's got that wide gap hook. Now, I would go with this style of jig head if you're fishing deeper, because it's basically nose heavy or forward heavy, so when it goes down, it dives straight down, so it goes quicker. If you're using a weedless hook, that weight is in the middle towards the back of the head or closer to the belly of the lure, so that lure is going to glide more than dart straight down. So weedless hook, this Haas Helix hook, if you're up in the shallows, I would say 3 feet of water or less, and then I would go with a jig head, the Haas weedless round eye jig head, if you're fishing 4 feet of water or deeper. Now this is a 1/4 ounce, so that can cover any depths from 4 feet up to probably 15 or 20 feet, depending on the current. So good options there, just 2 hooks. And what I would do if I'm out there, I would have 3 rods rigged up. I would have 1 rod rigged up with a topwater. I'd have my other rod rigged up with the Haas Helix hook, and then I'd have another rod rigged up with the weedless round eye jig head. That way, all you have to do is swap out the soft plastics throughout the day. You don't have to retie anything and you're good to go. And just quickly to demonstrate how each of these lures are rigged up on those hooks. So first up is the Haas weedless round eye jig head. This is the 4-inch mulligan. And what I like to do with any of these baits, you'll notice that jig head swings freely on there. So what you can do is put your soft plastic on to the point where it's pushed up all the way against that jig head. As you can see, it's swinging freely there. And now here, you can see it's not. So you have different ways of rigging that up. You can either have it pushed up all the way against that jig head to keep it locked and secure in place, or you can have that soft plastic a little further back and leave that jig head to freely swing. And then again, also works on the Prawn Junior. As you can see there, same size hook and weight. And then the Prawn Original, Prawn USA Original, same hook and weight. And then going over to the weedless hook, again, 3/0 1/8 ounce on the 4-inch mulligan, 3/0 1/8 ounce on the big prawn, the natural color, original size, and then the junior. These are my go-to lure colors. You know, white, natural color, that slam shady color works great in various conditions that I've found, and that natural shrimp color, anything that looks natural, those fish will typically go after no matter what the conditions. But if you're fishing in really dark water, you may want to go with a darker color, such as a gold digger, or our Turd Ferguson color, which is like a root beer with gold and red flash in there. So it'll vary depending on your preferences, what colors you're confident with. But again, the bundle comes with a variety of colors that you want to choose, and these lures and hooks here. So hopefully this makes it a little easier for you to choose what you want to get out there with and throw in the summertime. Again, these are the lure choices I go with. The sizes, they're in that 3.5, 4-inch to 4.5-inch size range, that middle range, which is ideal in the summertime. Very universal size for lures that time of year. And then as we get into fall, we'll go over another video, which will show what we like to throw in the fall. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop them down below. And again, remember, you can pick up any lure individually at fishstrong.com, and insiders, keep in mind that you do get a good discount on all tackle and gear, so be sure to take advantage of that. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop them down below. And if there's any types of lures that you like to throw in particular in the summertime, let us know why. Drop those comments down below.